Welcome to the Man That Can project. Today is going to be a cracking episode. We've got Brett joining us here today, and we've got so many things we can talk about. Good to have you here, Bretto.
Good to be here, brother. This could be a 2-hour show if we really pushed
We might Joe Rogan it. We might really special it. But, Brett, we connected months and months. I was going to swear, but we don't need to swear just yet. Months and months and months ago, you're a leader in the Strong Men of Value Academy. You're a driving force, but you've also got so much value that you can add through your own experiences and what you've been through over the year. But even, since I've known you, the growth that you've been on and how you've stood up as a leader is very inspiring. And obviously, leaders aren't just born. Some people think, he's just a natural. It's like some people maybe are more natural in various other things, but everything can be worked hard for. And you're one of those people who, for me, you're so consistent in everything that you do. You're very well spoken. You listen well. You offer great advice, but then you show up in every area of your life. And I'm sure people even outside of the academy can speak to that, your friends, your partner, and everything else like that. So I'm excited to chew the fat with you over the next hour, and I know you're going to deliver a heap of value for everyone listening. But let's dive in. How you going anyway?
Yeah, really well. A bit sore after the challenge that we did on Sunday.
Yeah.
And we're just talking about that off air. We both did the 21K row, obviously, and for both of us, it's not really our exercise of choice.
Nope.
So yeah, 10Ks on a rower, feeling it in the legs, feeling it in the back. It's not the sort of thing you do in a boxing ring. It's so rewarding. What we were talking about before, that mental journey and the physical journey, taking on that challenge and all the things that go through your mind whilst you're doing it. It was a real tough morning. But it was a really rewarding morning as well. I got to learn a lot about myself.
Yeah, what did you learn about yourself? Because I think one of the beautiful things about, you did it harder than I did, because I had a team of 3, you had a team of 2. And so for those who weren't following along, we did a 21.1 kilometre row or a bit more. And we got to split it up however we wanted. There were some blokes who did it individually, which is kudos to them.
Just legends, hey.
Unbelievable. There were people like myself who did it in teams of 3, also still a great achievement. And then yourself did it in with a partner, which is epic. But what did you learn about yourself?
I think the biggest thing I learned was the only limits that we have are the ones that we put on ourselves. Putting yourself out of your comfort zone and just giving something a go is a massive way to grow and learn very quickly.
Yep.
Like we just said, I'm not a rower. I'd spent about 10 minutes on a rowing machine before the challenge. I spent probably 15 minutes training. I got one of the girls from the boxing class that I'm in to give me a quick technique lesson.
That is awesome.
And then we were off. So it was, trained by a 14-year-old girl, and then we jumped on the rowers and off we went. But during that process, your mind goes through a lot of different stages. First, you'll be kicking off and you're really pumped up and you really want to get the job done, so you go a bit harder.
Yeah,
what are we doing? There's 10Ks, we'll do 20, we'll do 40.
Let's just go all day.
Do it ourselves. We'll do it back to back. Like all those really enthusiastic.
Ego kicks in.
Yeah, and then your legs start to hurt and your back starts to hurt and doubt starts to creep in. You're like, why am I doing this? Why did I tell all these people I can do it? I can't do this. This is too hard. And then, you start to wrestle with yourself in your mind, and the naughty voice that's telling you, give up, quit, you can't do it, gets drowned out by the other voice that's like, nah, you're going to give this a go. You are going to finish what you started. There's no getting out of this.
Yep.
And that's when you have to find that something within yourself, that little spark that keeps you going for the rest of the challenge.
What was that for you?
It was just not quitting. You gave me a pretty good intro there. I'm pretty pumped up to deliver the podcast now, but for a long time, those things that you talked about as being values that you associate with me, being consistent, being an example, that wasn't me. I was, in some aspects of my life, taking the easy route, doing just enough to be successful, but not really, pushing myself as hard as I could to see what that next level was, being a bit complacent with things, so I'd achieve, and then I'd just stop and rest. And I didn't really have that drive within myself to really push to that next level and see what was going on. Oftentimes I'd set myself a goal and near enough might have been good enough. And I've really focused on the last 3 years of my life of getting that mentality right out of my life and pushing as far as I can and doing as much as I can to achieve my goals. And if I fail, I fail. but I'd rather fail doing something that I love and giving it best effort than fail on the couch thinking about what potentially I could have done.
Yeah, definitely. There are so many people out there, though, who can resonate, myself included. I used to always go near enough as is good enough. And I think there's people who are extremely talented and they believe that I'm reading Mindset by Carol Dweck at the moment. She talks about talented people, and there's talented people who just rely on that and they don't enjoy failure, so they end up not achieving what they could possibly achieve. And then there's also people who work hard, and then there's talented people who work hard, right? And I think for myself, I know with athletics, I was always just, the top of the field. Even if I was, spent 2 months training and just played footy for the rest of the year, I'd still always win. So I wasted a lot of talent. And when I started losing, I was like, I'm going to go to footy or something like that. And there are so many people who can relate to that. But for you, what was the shift that made you go, look, I'm fucking over just doing near enough is good enough? Because I want people who are listening to this to think about this. Where are you cutting corners in your life? I'm really onto it, even especially since I'm rereading this book at the moment. Like there'll be times where I just leave something on the front counter or put a towel down there and I'm like, stop being a lazy bastard. Just do those 1%ers really well and you'll make your whole life so much easier. So what led you there?
It was, I guess, not wanting to have that mindset anymore. Like I knew what I'd achieved.
Yep.
If I put my mind to something, I can be successful at it.
Yep.
But I was often pinning my success against other people's success.
Yep.
So here's what I achieved, but it's not as good as old mate down the road because he's just so much better than me, or he's so much more talented than me, or he's just naturally gifted. So I'll just sit here because that's good enough for me. And starting to find a place in my life where that wasn't acceptable to me anymore. I wanted more, and not more in a sense of greed or wanting adulation or recognition, but just more for myself so that I could look back at the end of the day and say, hey, I kicked goals today. I achieved what I wanted to achieve. I left nothing on the table. I didn't give myself excuses. I didn't give myself an easy way out. I wanted to be that example for other people, but also for my son as well. So being a father is a big part of what drives me, and setting a good example, not only for Isaac, but for Ali and for Danny as well.
Yep. That would be a huge driving factor. And I think it's really awesome. And, just knowing from what I observe of how you live your life, like obviously you practice what you preach, but you're really good at making time for those things because, not even there are just, or once again, there are people out there who prioritize work too much and they miss the special moments, especially with family. Like I think the older I get as well, I'm starting to think more about mortality and even the time with my parents. And, I guess a good way to put it into context, and I always speak about that 18 summers, but even if you think about how often you see your parents, so for me, it might be 6 to 10 times a year. Let's use that as an average and say the average lifespan for a bloke is about 85. Dad's got 25 years left if he stays fit and healthy. And if I'm seeing him 5 to 10 times a year, that works out how many more moments you get with that person. So you start going, well, what do I want to experience with them? What do I want to say to them? What do I want to learn from them? And you can take a whole heap more away from life. And I think it's very easy to just get busy trying to achieve those milestones or trying to keep up with the bloke next to you that we miss all of that. And I think, where you really inspire me is that you're doing exactly that. You have grabbed life by the balls. Like you're wanting to be better, not because you want to prove to other people, but because you want to prove to yourself. But that in turn is inspiring Isaac, inspiring the other people around you, which is a cool way to live. And not saying that you wouldn't have your fair share of setbacks and daily doubts and everything like that because you're human, but you just continue to move forward. So what do you do? Let's give us a situation like there are days where you wake up, you might fail because you said, you'd rather fail trying than sitting on the couch not knowing. Like, how do you get yourself through failure?
It's an interesting one for me because years ago, if I fail, I would have just given up. That would have been the end of it. I would have spiraled into you're not good enough. Why did you even bother trying? You were never going to achieve that anyway, and really let that negative self-talk rule the rest of my day and potentially the rest of my week, and then maybe the rest of the month, and then something like booze or bad habits become more entertaining and you're well off track. now what I do is basically look at whatever it was that I failed in, or whatever it is that, not even that I failed in, but that I didn't achieve what I thought I was going to achieve, and start to think why that happened. You know, was it something I could control? Did I go to the gym with the mindset to achieve this number of reps at this number of weight, and I got halfway through the set and went, oh, you know what, it's a bit hard. I'll be satisfied at half of what I thought I was going to achieve. Or in boxing, did I go to the gym with the intention to spar with someone and work on a few different techniques that I've been practicing? And for whatever reason, that person got the better of me and I wasn't able to do that. Same thing. Previously, I would have gone, oh, well, you're just not good enough, Bretto, and that guy's a bit better, and maybe you should just hit the bag for a while and not really try.
Yep.
Whereas now it's like, okay, cool. Here's an opportunity to learn. What did I do well? What did I do poorly? What can I improve on? And not pinning my success to other people's idea of what success is or other people's idea of what success looks like for me.
That's such it's perspective. It's all how we perceive what's happening in front of us, and how I think I look at it like, you know, relationships. Every relationship that we have is new. It's not the same as the previous ones. And if we talk intimately, it's not the same as the one you had prior, if you've had one, right? But often we can use reference points from past relationships as reference points of how we think things should go and what they should be like, and they're not always going to match up. And often that can cause challenges or disagreements or, you know, all that sort of stuff in relationships. And where I feel we can go better, and I think you can put this in any area of your life, is everything needs to be situational. And everything that you spoke about then is you really take the time to question things now. And I think a big part of responsibility, a big part of ownership is actually being to question why things are happening. And some days you might need more questions than others. Other days it might be a simple question.
Yep.
But that's how you start to understand yourself a whole heap more. Like even just chatting with you so far, I'm learning so much, and I'm even thinking in my head, man, you speak so it's awesome, and that's why podcasts are awesome. But it's then got, you know, some of the questions that you've asked yourself. I'm like, well, I need to ask myself that later because, you know, that's something that's going on in my life, and I feel that question can now help. So to move for all of us to progress, like if you continue to fail at the same thing, it's not that you're a piece of shit. It's not that it's not possible for you. You're just not asking the right answers, the right questions. And sometimes if we don't know where to find the questions, there's listen to podcasts, read books, ask people who have achieved what you're looking to achieve, and you can find that one thing and you can go, oh, I wish I'd, you know, it's so simple, but I wish I'd found that out 10 years ago.
And that's the beauty of our community is every Friday when we get together, or every time you pick up your phone and you put a message in the WhatsApp group to the other gents, you're maybe not actively thinking about it, but there's 20 or so blokes or 5 or so blokes in your chat who are all having an experience as well.
Yep.
We're all come from different walks of life. We're all different ages. We're all different ethnicities. We've all got different interests. But the more you open up and talk to people, the more you realize that there's commonalities, and there's more commonalities than there are differences.
I agree.
And you use relationship as an example there. No relationship is the same as the last one. No day in a relationship is the same as the last one. And you always think when you're in a situation that you're alone, whether it's a good situation or perhaps a negative situation. You always think this has never happened to anyone else. And there might be that victim mindset, poor me, or why is this happening to me, or how do I get out of this situation? And what we don't think necessarily is that Lachie might have been in this situation. What if I reach out and ask Lachie how he would deal with this? Or what if I just drop a message in the group and say, hey boys, has anyone else ever experienced this? Or this is what I'm feeling at the moment. Does it resonate with anyone?
Yep. And
you'd be surprised how quickly an answer comes back to you. Oh, geez, Bretto, yeah, that's happened to me as well. This is how I dealt with it. Or, you know, mate, no, this happened to me and this is something that didn't go well, so maybe don't try that.
Yeah.
But it's that openness and vulnerability that our community encourages and fosters that allows us all to improve, I think.
Definitely. And we're not saying we have all the answers because we don't, but
not even close.
I think every conversation at least stimulates that next action step. And I think that's one of the most important things is being able to actually do what you've just said. It's hard to reach out. It's hard to be vulnerable, like for most people.
You've got to be brave.
Yeah.
It's a lot of courage to stand up in front of anyone, whether it's your family, your partner, your friends, a group of strangers, and open yourself up and honestly express what's going on in your mind, good, bad, or indifferent. But the beauty of what we do is that it encourages people to feel safe in that environment and share themselves honestly. And if you're being honest with yourself, well, then you can be honest with others. And that's where that growth really happens, I think.
Definitely. I could not agree more. I was watching your, when was it? It would have been 8 weeks ago or 10 weeks ago where we did the task where everyone had to share a story in the Facebook community, and I was watching yours before.
It's like the 13-minute epic of
the monologue. It was awesome though. But obviously you've been through a heap of stuff from workplace bullying. You're a boxer, like you absolutely love that stuff. I used to do Muay Thai, and I used to be an angry bloke, but now I couldn't even think of anything worse than getting in a ring with someone who wants to punch my head in. And obviously, that's just a poor way of looking at it because it's a craft, it's an art, and there's a whole heap of stuff to look into that. But for you from workplace bullying, because it's a real thing, right? The reason why I left building, I wasn't bullied, but it was just a toxic environment. I think an environment that contains workplace bullying, or even just bullying in general, if you're hanging around people that don't respect you and you don't respect yourself enough to remove yourself from the situation, what was that experience like for you? And what made you change it? Because there's a lot of people who are going to jobs every day, copying shit when they don't deserve to, but they also don't respect themselves enough to get out of the situation.
It was a real kick in the guts, that whole situation. To give you a bit of background, I'd been working in that company for some time, and I was living up in Townsville. I just moved back to Brisbane and had taken a bit of a gamble and took a secondment within that particular department.
Yep.
I'd interviewed for a role. There were two of us who they just couldn't split. We both had different skills, but we're both exceptional candidates.
Yep.
They went with the other guy for the full-time job, but they said to me, look, we really liked you. We'll give you a secondment. You've got 3 months to basically show us what you can do. So knuckled down, put my hand up for every piece of work that came my way, thought really strategically about what I was doing, played to my skills, made myself available to other people, made myself a real asset in the team. And by the end of that 3 months, I'd got a full-time role.
I love how you said you made yourself an asset.
It was one of those things, though. I knew I wasn't going to be able to keep the role by being the same as everyone else. They put me in that opportunity and in that chance to shine because I did have skills that were a bit unique. So it was like, okay, Pola, what you got to do now is embrace that. There's things that you do that make you who you are. There's skills that you have that these other people don't have, so maximize it. And it was a department of high achievers. Like, it was as high as you could potentially go with that particular organisation. So everyone next to you was exceptional at what they did. And there were so many good mentors there. If I'd applied it with the mindset of, oh, well, I'm here now, I'll just sort of make no noise and hope that everything goes well, I would have been out the door at the end of 3 months because there would have been someone knocking on that door much harder than me who really wanted that position.
Yep.
So I really, really grasped it, made myself an asset to as many people as I could, helped as many people as I could, shared as much knowledge as I could. By the end of that 3 months, they'd offered me a full-time role. So from that experience of walking in the door with the attitude of, I'm going to kick the living daylights out of this and you just watch me, I developed that reputation as the guy who you could go to get the job done.
Yep.
In all sorts of different aspects of that office. I was then given the opportunity to work with, at that time, one of the leading bankers in the team. And it was like a dream job for me in banking because we were working with a specialised portfolio of sports people and entertainers. So it's going to be a terrible thing to say, but banking is boring sometimes, right? Finance and numbers, it's not exciting. Yeah. Like when you're at a barbecue and people say, what do you do? And you go, oh, I'm a banker. Like you kind of want to just hide your face as well because you're either going to get something thrown at you because someone's had their loan declined, or they're going to think you're some greedy so-and-so who's just money grubbing. Mm-hmm. So I could go socially and go, yeah, I'm a banker. I work in a portfolio where we look after sports people and entertainers. It's really cool. And learn a lot with that banker and work my tail off. And eventually moved into another area within the department, which was more back office statistics, like writing loans and that sort of thing. And it was there that things started to fall apart for me. Because when I was with the bankers and the sales team, I was using my personality and I was using those people skills. Whereas the role that I moved into, and I did this intentionally to test myself, was all written skills, mathematical skills, analytical skills. And I was mixing with a group of people who I probably wouldn't have mixed with before, and was facing challenges that I hadn't faced before. And it was there that issues started for me. Basically just a conflict with someone who was pretty manipulative and pretty sneaky about how they go about things.
Yep.
Like when you and I think of bullies, you probably think of that big burly guy who's going to front up and grab your lunch money or punch you in the face or that sort of thing, like that traditional idea of a bully. When you think of a bully, you don't think of someone with a pencil neck and a briefcase who doesn't look like they could handle a strong breeze, but is like a master manipulator and plays mental games and will do things to you that if someone else sees it, they wouldn't go, hang on a minute, you can't do that to Bretto. But over a period of time, it starts to mentally manipulate you and put you in a position where you're not feeling confident, you're not feeling strong, you start to lose your self-worth. And it's really baffling because, a physical confrontation people can handle. If someone comes up to you and they attempt physical violence upon you, whether you can fight or not, you could run away from it, someone might jump in on your behalf, there might be a physical confrontation, but it comes to a point and it finishes. Whereas a emotional and a mental bullying, that sort of aspect, it can go on for months unnoticed. And it could be really simple things that might be comments that are given about you, feedback that's given about you, but you take it on board and it just really affects your mental health.
Yep.
So it was like that for me for a couple of months with this person, and I just had no way of dealing with it. And when I approached other people to get a solution, they were like, well, there's not much you can do really. Go to HR and talk to them about it. And if you do that in a big corporation, you're pretty much signing your death warrant. So it got to a point for months and months I was in this position. I didn't know what to do, and it was just nagging on me. And I was just starting to come into my relationship with my partner at the time, starting to come into my relationship with my family, with Isaac, and my self-worth was just going right down the drain. And I think I touched on it in the live. It ended up in a confrontation in the workplace, which I don't advise. It's not the right thing to do.
Probably
keep
better ways to go around it.
But that's how it ended.
Well, you bottle up as well. I think if you don't, you said you didn't really have any tools or strategies through that period of time. When you bottle things up, eventually there's a boiling point.
And you just explode.
Yeah, and obviously it's not the healthiest way, so that's why learning tools and strategies or removing yourself is a promising way to go about it.
So from that explosion and aggro, yelling in the office, I realised straight away I'd done the wrong thing. And I also realised at that point just how much this treatment was wearing on me mentally. So I took some time off. I think I took 4 days sick leave, and in that time I sourced a counsellor. So I went and had an initial conversation about what was going on and started to unravel it. And after the first session, I sort of sat with myself for a while and went, man, what are you doing this for? Why are you going to work every day doing something you don't enjoy, where you're being bullied? What's the benefit to you? Well, financial, it's paying your rent and it's paying your bills and it's putting clothes on Isaac's back and it's fueling the car and those sorts of things. But I wasn't earning enough money that I could save a good deposit for a house, go on overseas holidays, do those things that are probably aspirational things.
Yep.
And it wasn't feeding my soul because every day I was going to work, I was hating it. And I was acting out in ways I'd put stupid memes on my desk or something, or someone would talk to me and I'd snap at them.
Yep.
So it was really starting to take me away from my core values and who I saw myself as.
Yep.
And I thought about it and went, well, I'm not going back there. These guys aren't going to fix it. I'm not going to sit in a meeting with someone who's going to tell me that I've done the wrong thing. I know I've done the wrong thing, and then have to go back to that job for the next 3 months with everyone looking over my shoulder going, oh, that's Bretto, he's the one who had the breakdown. Or that's Bretto, he's the one who yelled at that guy. My strategy was to get out of there.
Yep.
And find something that lit me up and made me happy. And it was at that point where I just went, you know what? I've been working for you guys for a long time and I got a ton of sick leave stacked up. So I worked with my counsellor. I burnt my sick leave. Yep. And then once my sick leave was over, I resigned. Now, I didn't just spend that time sitting on my butt at home doing nothing. It was in that time that I found boxing. So in that 6 weeks where I was working with the counsellor and working through everything that had happened to me, I found that physical outlet as well. So the challenge of working on myself, my emotions, my mental health, as well as working on myself physically, it just all meshed together really nicely. And that sort of catapulted me into the next aspect of my life and the next challenges. And it wasn't easy. It took me a long time still to regain confidence and get over that, because a lot of my identity was tied up with being involved in that organisation and, you know, the pride of being able to achieve working somewhere at a high level and, you know, the reputation of being that person you could count on. And when that all goes out the door, you're basically left with what's in here, not what's out there. So I had to get to really like what was going on in my life again.
It's a beautiful place to be, where you can get back to a point where you like where you're actually at. And once again, going back to the questions that you asked yourself, like a lot of people, or there are many people out there who remain in situations they don't want to be in because they wouldn't ask the next question, or why am I here? Oh, it pays the bills. That's the final question. It pays the bills. I got to stay there. Even though I'm being bullied, I'm very unfulfilled. I'm not being able to afford the aspirational things like travel and a house deposit and all of that. And that's why I'm saying, like, there's more questions that we can ask ourselves to get to the outcome that we want to achieve. And then obviously, you know, for you, you've been thriving ever since. And it's the most fucking exciting times in human history, I believe, because we can literally, you know, there's people who do podcasts like this and earn full time. Like Joe Rogan got $100 million contract, like signing fee. So anything you want to do now is possible. Yes, you may have to learn a few skills. You might have to fail. You might have to put your hand up and ask for help. But, you know, you don't have to stay in the situation or the relationship or whatever it is that is causing you so much grief, because as we spoke about earlier, life is short. And the older we get, the more responsibility we get, the faster it feels like it's going. So you may as well be doing things that are enjoyable for you.
And don't get trapped in those situations that someone else wants you to be in.
Yep.
Have the courage to find out what you want and then go for it. And if it's playing the violin, go for it. Yeah. If it's being the best banker in the world, go for it. Yep. If it's painting or art or music or sport or whatever it is that lights you up, do it. Find a way to do it. And if you can't do it for income, do it for passion. And that was the biggest thing for me. Like I think back a lot about my journey and things that people have said to me, and they can be really inconsequential things, but they stick with you. And I remember just after that had all happened, and I was in a new job and meeting new workmates, and I was getting right into the boxing. It was like really lighting me up. Yep. And one fellow in the office just said to me in passing, like, "You're really good at this job, but you're never smiling." And I'm like, okay. But whenever you talk about boxing, you've got the biggest smile on your face. You should be a boxing coach. And when he said that, I was like, the voice in my head was like, how can I be a boxing coach? I've only just started boxing. Like, no one's going to want to learn from me. I'm some guy who's been chased out of his job and is depressed and had to go see a counsellor, and all that negative stuff came to the top. Whereas if someone said that to me now, I'd be like, well, what's going to stop me being a boxing coach? How do I be a boxing coach? Who do I need to speak to about that? When can we start? Let's get going. And same again, it's that mindset of pulling yourself out of that victim mode and letting life come to you rather than going after life. I think. And that's where our group is massive for so many people, not just myself. And it must give you a lot of pride as well to come on the calls every week and hear blokes kicking goals. You know, you might have spoken to someone a couple of weeks ago who's having an issue with something, and the bloke's got around him and we worked it out together. Or he worked it out for himself, or something's happened that's improved. And you watch people's faces light up and that real community of support. It's
crazy how quickly people turn their life around. Like, it's generally within a month, someone's like Heath, when he got through his 12-week game plan, was just like, I'm flying. But he was saying that after a month.
Yep.
And it's literally, I think it's built off what I wanted and you guys we're all in the same boat, but it's super simple stuff that you don't have to sacrifice your life to do. It just is you upgrading and changing what your habits are to do things that are more aligned to you as an individual. But, you know, social media, and this works for, you know, fitness is probably the prime example of that. To get fit, healthy, and strong. It's just some core principles. But you might see people doing backflip burpees on Instagram, and you're like, I got to learn that. Or you might see people doing, these viral videos are generally interesting because we don't see a lot of stuff like that. But that's what we feel we need to do in order to, I can't remember the name of the guy on Instagram, but one of my mates was showing me them the other day. He's like just eats purely meat, like raw or whatever. He was eating like a fish while I was alive. And I was like,
sushi
people,
extreme.
Yeah, there's like people who buy into that, which is fine. But you don't have to do that to build muscle and to be healthy. There's a lot easier ways, and probably ways that don't make you feel sick, to do that. And it's the same with how you can improve your quality of life. The hardest part, as you said, in my opinion as well, is the mindset, because how you talk to yourself and how you perceive yourself is going to have a big influence over what decisions you make. And the decisions that you make ultimately determine the outcome for your life. And the thing that the reason why I get up and continue to do the same thing day in, day out, is because I get to have conversations with you, and I've seen your growth over the last couple of months. But then, people who are thinking about it, and I'm like, if you just trust me enough,
just jump.
Just trust me, you too will be in this position. Like, there's people in the community that haven't fully committed yet. And that's part of life. Some people just think that if they pay, the results will happen. You got to actually
just think it and be it, right?
Yeah, it's like that doesn't work. I'd be a billionaire on an island. Don't get me wrong. I like sitting there and thinking about life, but you got to actually act, and that's where the uncomfortability comes, because you're forced to deal with your own insecurities, your weaknesses, your vulnerabilities, which is, I love it now. I don't like it in the moment, but when you can look back and go, I cannot believe I managed to work that out, or I managed to, even the life that I've got for myself now is like, wow, like the community that we've got, it's epic. And we're all like continuing to grow it. And you just sit there and go, it started as an idea 4 years ago. And who knows where it's going to be in 4 years' time.
It blows your mind away. And I think the beauty of what you do and what we do as a community is its simplicity. When I found The Man That Can, I was in a period where I'd just probably been in a relationship for about 3 months with Danny.
Yep.
And
she's awesome, by the way.
She's great. She's one of the driving forces in my life, and I'm so lucky to have her. If it wasn't for her, I probably wouldn't be where I am today either. So it was an absolute blessing meeting her, and the journey that we're on just blows my mind every day.
That's awesome.
I don't think I'm thankful enough for what I've got.
Yep.
But she found it. We were sitting around one afternoon, and before I met her, the year before I met her, I was moving towards self-help and self-improvement, and I was churning through a lot of books and listening to a lot of podcasts, but everything was just like, next. And nothing was resonating with me. Like, you'd see this catch line on YouTube or on Instagram and go, oh, like we were talking about before, oh, that's cool, let's have a look at that.
Yep.
And then it'd be someone going, you've just got to do the work. And we're like, okay, but what's the work?
What's the work?
Can you tell me a bit about the work? Can you maybe point me in the right direction? Nah, you just do the work. Okay, cool. Next, how do I get what I want? You ask the universe. Well, haven't I been doing that? And I'm still sitting in the same place on my couch, not getting what I want. Like, am I calling the wrong universe? Do I need to go to a parallel universe? Like, help me out here, buddy. And all these people with just all sizzle, no steak, right?
Yeah.
No substance behind what they're saying, a lot of buzzwords, a lot of nonsense, and it just wasn't resonating with me. And then I hear this bloke who's speaking the language that I speak. He's talking about accountability. He's on a podcast telling me that, he journeyed within himself. He found the things that he didn't like about himself, and he found a way to change them. And it was one of your podcasts that I listened to, and you were talking about the person you were in the past, and how the person you were in the past wasn't the person you were going to be in the future. And you were talking about how you'd been a liar and you'd been a manipulator. And I just, like, it hit me like a ton of bricks. We were talking about a relationship or some situation like that. And I was on a bus, and I remember distinctly, I just went, that's me. And I think it was that afternoon I got on the message to you and sent you a message and go, right, how can we connect? How can I become a part of this community? Because finally, here's a message that's not flowery and existential. It's like, if you want to change your life, figure out what you want to do, go do it. Don't let anything stop you. It's up to you. It's not under anyone else's control. It's completely your control. And that just sit with me so well. And I was at that point in my life where I was ready for something like that. I was achieving.
Yeah.
I had a job. I had a relationship. Everything was going swimmingly. Probably could have sat back and gone, yeah, you know what?
Coast.
Next 6 months, cruisy. But by the same token, I didn't want that. I wanted it more. And once again, not in a greed sense, but in a, I can do better. I can do more. I can help people. I can share my story. And finding the man that can, everything's just gone skyward from there.
And now you're sharing your story, which is epic. That is brilliant.
But all the things that I've achieved since I joined the group, like the boxing match, I won't say I never would have done that without the influence of Danny or the group or my community at Eastside, but it's probably less likely.
Yep.
I would have found an excuse. Oh, yeah, I could fight that guy, but he's a bit bigger than me and he's a bit better than me. I'll wait till next time. Or I just recently was promoted at work. Similar sort of thing. Oh, yeah, I could go for that promotion, but there's probably someone better, and
Yep.
I'm okay in this role, so I'll just let it pass. It's not a mindset I have anymore. I try to seize every opportunity I can get and maximize it, and don't let those simple excuses or those silly little voices in your head that tell you can't do something be the ones that tell you how to live your life.
Where do you see yourself going in the next couple of years?
God, wish you didn't ask me that, because I don't have an answer. Hey, this is where I fall down. Like,
Good honesty, though.
I don't have that overarching vision for this is where Braddo's going to be in 5 years.
Yep.
And part of the reason I joined the group was because I would always achieve. And I would achieve to a level that I was pretty happy with.
Yep.
But then it'd kind of stagnate.
Yep.
And there was no substance or backbone behind it going, okay, first I'm going to hit this mark. Then this mark will get me to this, then to this, then to this, then to this. So long-term planning and those sort of 5-year goals, 2-year goals is something that I really struggle with. I could give you a few like potential dreams, but I don't have a set vision of I'm going to achieve this and this is going to get me to here.
Yeah.
At the moment, I'm working towards getting my Certificate 3 and Certificate 4 in fitness.
Yep.
So I'm doing that part-time after work and after boxing and after everything else that's going on.
It's cool that you make time for the things that you want, though, as well, and don't just use time as the reason why you can't do it.
Well, I think you have to, and for a lot of the time, Lachie, that was my excuse. Oh, yeah, I could go and learn this new skill, but that would mean I'd have to catch a bus after work to here, and it's going to cost me $50 a week, and that $50 is better probably spent on cigarettes and beer, and, oh, okay, cool, then I don't have to do it. Awesome. Keep going on with life. But if you want a fulfilled life and you want the things that you really dream for, you've got to work for them. And for me, 2 hours out of my night on a Monday and a Wednesday, putting me in a position where potentially in 6 months or a year's time, I might be doing more boxing coaching. I might be involved in an industry that I want to be involved in, rather than sitting at my desk in the office looking at a picture on the wall and dreaming that one day that's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's a no-brainer. And even in Danny's business, she runs her own business. So every weekend we're out at markets
bow
selling.
tie one, right?
Yeah. Her business is
Give
called...
it a quick plug.
her business is called Bow Keep. So Danny makes wooden hair accessories, so hair clips, hair bows. She's just released a range of bow ties as well. And it's all made from locally salvaged, rescued timbers.
It's epic.
So it brings together her love of woodworking. She's a self-taught woodworker, and other aspects of her life as well, sustainability and cutesy things and hair bows.
But it's cool that Danny's even done that, right? Like turning something that she's passionate about but also, enjoys doing into a business. I'm a huge fucking believer that everyone should... I was only saying this yesterday on the live in the group last night. I believe everyone should give it a crack, because people are very quick to judge and criticize other people around, why didn't you consider this, or why didn't you consider me, etc. But when you're running a business, like there's a lot of stuff to consider, and as the longer you're in business, the more you probably overcome the hurdles. But I'm helping Amy with something at the moment, and we're launching it on Monday. And straight away last night she gets a message from someone going, why didn't you consider this? Or why didn't you? I'm like, Amy, don't listen to that person, because they don't understand that, this is your first attempt at, your own product. So just we'll learn from it. We'll take that advice on board 100% because it's awesome. But we just didn't consider that at that moment in time. And then you've got to think about scheduling. It's got to be profitable, right? Like there's so many things that influence your decisions. If we all had the ability to make the world's best business that served everyone, we probably would.
That's it. We'd all be doing it.
We'd all be doing it, but we can't. Like that's the reason why not everyone resonates. It's like why you're listening to self-help stuff and there was a lot of people that didn't resonate with you. Same for me. I listen to content and even hang out with people, and some of them I don't resonate with and I don't want to spend more time with, and it's not personal. It's just time's finite. So I want to
do you want to waste it or do you want to maximize it?
And it's none of it's personal. It's just I'm looking out for my growth and the people that I care about, and I want to really maximize my time because, you know, like we've said, you could die tomorrow, or you know, you got children, you got a partner. You want to maximize your time with them and with your mates as well. And it's, you know, that's the reality of it. So I think if people ran a business, even just gave it a crack, like now, because overhead, you don't have to have massive overheads in business now with technology. Give it a crack and see what it's like, because then you can start thinking like a business owner and go, fuck, they didn't deliberately forget about me, or they didn't deliberately do that. Maybe, you know, I'm trying to help a specific person, so my message shouldn't be directed at you, and that's okay, and I don't care.
And those challenges you take on as well as a business person, and those things that you learn about yourself and the philosophies of your business, they translate into other areas of your life as well. So I used to be a cocktail bartender back in the olden days, and people always say
should
to me...
have got some alcohol out here so you could have gone...
Christmas party, bro.
Yeah, well,
Christmas
let's do
party,
that.
Dust off the skills.
It's going to be awesome.
But people always said to me, like, why didn't you open your own bar? Why didn't you ever do something like that? Well, when I was in hospitality, there wasn't food trucks, there wasn't pop-ups, there wasn't hole-in-the-wall bars, there weren't all these opportunities that there are for people in that industry now. So my answer is, yeah, I didn't open a restaurant because I didn't have $1 million to throw at a venue, and it just wasn't going to happen. There wasn't those other opportunities, and I didn't have the foresight to go, well, maybe I should take booze on the road. I had a caravan and some blenders. We could do margaritas anywhere. Like that's natural now, right?
Yeah.
There are people who make their living doing that. But at the time that I was involved in that industry, it wasn't an opportunity. And like I said, I didn't have the foresight to create it. But there's far less barriers to people now. And the situation that we're in now is you can start a business while you're being a mum, being a dad, working full-time, working part-time, studying. There's so many different opportunities and avenues you can take it down that you'd be foolish not to at least give it a crack, because what's the worst thing that's going to happen? You might dump a bit of cash, you might dump a bit of time, but you might do something that changes your life or changes the life of others or takes you on a whole different trajectory that you never ever thought about.
Yeah.
But if you're sitting in your bed at 11 o'clock at night going, maybe, I don't know, people do it. Just stay comfy, stay home. It's easy.
Yep.
Then you'll never achieve anything.
It's bang on. You got to grow. Like it's either way. Once again, business is like a potential rock bottom point for you. Like if people know they're losing money, they generally act like, because money is what unfortunately makes the world go round. It helps us eat. It helps us stay clothed. It helps us pay rent. So when you're in a business and it's not profitable, you have to start asking for help. If you're doing it well, and you have to seek solutions. You have to learn to problem solve. And sometimes if you don't have them, like for me, I don't spend much. I used to spend heaps on advertising. Now I don't do it. I do collaborations and various other things because I'm like, well, I don't need that overhead. And I would rather learn to be creative because I'm in a creative space with everything that I do. Really, so I'm always trying to think outside the box. It's forcing me to have conversations with people in different industries, for me, read different books, and because there's always an opportunity to innovate or bring something new to the space. But I think a lot of people, or there are many people out there who are lacking the ability to problem solve, and that is the single thing that's keeping people stuck. But for me as well, it's that sad thing because I feel you would see as well, like everyone has so much potential.
Yep.
And when I say potential, I don't mean you have to be an Elon Musk to fulfill that. It's just like we're all pursuing our potential every day. I believe in, especially in our community, because we have an idea of what we want, and that might not necessarily translate to money, but it might be incredible relationships or just walking down the street happy every day, just knowing how good we've got it. Like there's just these measurables that we can implement into our life, which is, why I do so many things. I don't get paid for the podcast. I could. I get offered all the time to get paid for it, but I don't want to do that. I'm happy just having the conversations because it's a value exchange. I get just as much from talking to you as I do with every other guest, as people think they do from the exposure that they get off the podcast.
Are you going to make me famous?
I hope so. Come on, guys, everyone out there. Who knows? Who knows?
Please don't.
There's always value exchange, but I think even going back to where we were before, when I asked you where you see things going, it can be definitely very overwhelming to think about I don't know where my life, or where I even want my life to be in 10 years' time, because I'm going to grow and I'm going to change as a person. So I don't even know if I'll be in this line of work, or if I'll be with that, hanging out with those people. But there's some things I think we can look to establish within our life that we can continually use to base our decisions off, right? And for me, I want to have relationships that challenge me and empower me and make me feel good, right? Like they're extremely important to me. I want to have choice, and the choice comes through, freedom, but that comes through choice and flexibility. So that's why I work for myself. I have an online revenue stream. I have a face-to-face revenue stream. So if I do ever want to travel and whatnot, I'm still, financially comfortable. I also want to be able to decide who I work with and, things like that, and the experiences that I have. That's why I always keep that in the forefront of my mind. That's why I don't own a gym. I've partnered with a gym because I don't have the overheads or I'm not locked down to anything.
It makes sense.
Yeah. And then there's various other things. And, while at the moment, things that bring me fulfillment are surfing, training and all those sorts of things, they mightn't be that way in 10 years' time, but in 10 years' time, I still know I want to be happy and fulfilled. So the decisions are based around that for me. So that's why when I think long term, it's like I couldn't tell you exactly what I'm going to be doing, but I can tell you those 4 things. I didn't mention the 4th one. I'm not going to, but those 4 things, it's a secret sauce. But those 4 things are always going to be considered in my decisions moving forward. And it excites me to know that I'm going to have more of that, because every day that I wake up and I get to work on becoming more efficient in creating that and making that possible for myself, it's like I'm the creator of my own life. And it's fucking exciting to think about where I'll be in 10 years' time, and where you'll be, and where everyone can be.
And that's the beauty of what we're doing in the group and you've just given me a light bulb moment. Like when you say where you're going to be in 5 years, looking for that robotic answer. Well, in 5 years' time, Lachie, I'm going to be doing this and having this.
I have my red Ferrari.
Yeah. It can be so broad as, okay, what are my values and what are the non-negotiables that I'm going to carry with me, not just today, not just tomorrow, but every day for the rest of my life?
Yep.
How do I find out what those things are, and then how do I make it something that I don't just say or think, but I am every day?
Well said. And just even to add to that, for those who, Bretto was saying earlier, like you listen to all these things and they never actually gave you action steps. If you don't know what you like, start trying more things.
Yep.
That's as simple as it is, because you can read whatever you want. I guarantee you, I used to grow up skateboarding and motorbike riding and stuff, and I was always like, I want to be able to do a backflip. I love the crusty demons on the motorbikes here. When I hit a jump, I was like, nah. So as much as you can get ideas and inspiration from reading things and talking about things, until you actually give it a crack, you have no idea how it's actually going to make you feel and whether it provides the fulfillment that you think. And actually, let's bring this back into relationships and cheating. When I'll speak from my own experience with when I did this in previous relationships, it's that the grass is always greener. There's something I'm internally unhappy about, right? I might be feeling valued or whatever else is going on. And rather than trying to solve the problem in my current relationship, you just go, oh, that Sheila's giving me attention. Maybe she'll be the one to solve the problem. And you go out there and get that quick fix, and the next day or the next morning or moments after, you're like, that was a bad decision. But then we have to live with the consequences of that. So I think it's very important, and I've gone on this huge tangent. I forgot where I started, but I'll bring it back around somehow.
We knew this was going to happen.
Halfway through, I think I do it every episode. Halfway through it, I was like, what am I tying this back into? I've just gone on this random relationship tangent, but we'll leave that one there because I don't even know how to tie it back in.
It's interesting what you say, though, because I think perhaps not everyone has been in that same situation, but you can, in a relationship, you can apply it to a lot of different things, right? And certainly in a relationship, if you're not being fulfilled and there's someone else that comes along, whether it's male, female, if they're giving you what you perceive you need, then that's going to be a more attractive option than looking at yourself and going, well, my relationship isn't going well because I'm not treating myself correctly. I'm not doing the things that I want to do. I'm not treating my partner correctly. Maybe I'm not communicating effectively. Maybe I need to learn to listen and speak better. Maybe we need to spend some time talking to each other as opposed to just getting home, doing the washing up, sitting on the couch watching TV and hoping that things are going to be better.
Yep.
And that's when that person or that other thing, it might not be a person, it might be a pastime. Like you might go to the gym instead of spending time on your relationship. You might spend time at work instead of spending time on your relationship. The energy that you're putting into that other thing to get fulfillment, if this is what you really want, then put the time into that and create that fulfillment.
I feel like that's where I was going. That was beautiful. Well, very well said. I've got one last question for you. I haven't prompted you for it, but I'm sure you're probably aware of it. But what is your definition of being a man?
I love this part. Guess what? I've got no answer prepared for this one. I was sitting around on the couch this morning having a coffee going, okay, what are Lachie and I going to talk about? Well, there's boxing, there's definitely that, and there's work, and there's all the different things that I've done, and maybe we talk about grief, or maybe we'll talk about this, and I completely forgot the key question that comes every single time. But you know what? I'm glad, because once again, I didn't want to sit here and go, well, Lachie, being a man to me is, and come up with some robotic, scripted answer where everyone's going to go, that's not Bretto.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
Yeah.
What's going on there? So I think for me, it's a really interesting answer, because I grew up with my mother and my two sisters. My father passed when I was 6. So for a long time in my life, I didn't have a male influence. I had role models or mentors that sort of came in and out of my life, but I never had a father who was there with me every single day from age of 6 to now. So a lot of the things that I value about myself and what I've learned about fatherhood and being a man are self-taught, and a lot of it comes from the influence of women in my life as well. So for me, being a man is having integrity, being a person of your word and living your life in such a way that you're not cheating yourself. When you wake up in the morning, you're authentically you, and carrying that through no matter what situation, what day. So honesty, integrity, vulnerability, and resilience is another one, I think. Being a man or being a human, you have to have a lot of resilience.
Yep.
But for me in my life, that's one of the big things that I work on. And I think if you're going to be a strong role model, you're going to be a strong human, you're going to be a strong man, then resilience is key to that.
Couldn't agree more. Could not agree more. I'm glad you didn't prepare that, because that was awesome. But for everyone who wants to get in contact with you, where can they find you? Obviously, join the Strong Men of Value Academy. You can have a yarn with Bretto in there, but where else are you contactable? Is it
through the groups pages? You can always find me commenting on Facebook and Instagram on The Man That Can, on both of those channels. I'm on Instagram as well, so you can hit me up there. My profile's open. So I'm always happy to have a message and have a yarn. If you're thinking about joining the group, if you're one of those people like me who's perhaps sitting on a bus listening to this, staring out the window going, geez, that sounds like something I'm interested in and I want to learn more about it, get in contact. As I said a bit earlier, like my life was going pretty well when I met you. Most people wouldn't complain about where I was sitting, but the skills that I've learned and the mindset and the community that I've found has enabled me to do things, like I said, I didn't think were possible. And I know it's just going to go from strength to strength being a part of the community. So if you can, reach out to myself or to Lachie, and look forward to seeing you in the community.
Thanks so much for coming on, mate.
Thanks,
was
brother.
awesome.
It's been so much fun.
Yeah.
Hey, I feel like
it flew.
I'm one of those people who could just talk underwater with a mouthful of marbles. So,
so speaking of, my missus is with a mouthful of marbles, but they've gone up to Cairns today.
Oh, wow.
They're putting them 5 meters underwater and they're singing underwater, but
No
they've got
way.
these big, like domes or something over their head. So that'll be interesting to see.
That's so
Yeah,
cool, like the old-timey diving
Yeah.
helmets.
I was like, when she flew out yesterday, I was like, where are you off to? Cairns, I'm doing this underwater sing. I was like, what the fuck? It's awesome. So you can sing underwater with a mouthful of marbles. It's possible. But thank you so much for your time, mate. And I
Thank you, brother.
truly do value you as a person, but also everything that you contribute to, our community. But also, I'm sure you're doing the exact same thing on the outside as well. You're a great leader and definitely someone that I look up to, and how you conduct yourself. It's awesome.
Thank you.